Yeah, you can go to that picture, problem solving picture slide, maybe third or fourth slide. Yeah, this slide. Yeah. So this is the slide I was talking about. Yeah, so basically identifying the problem and defining the problem is pretty important. So identifying the problem. So you have to identify what the problem is. You might know the problem really well, but I think for others to understand, or for you to communicate, or for you to share the problem you have identified with others, so you have to define it really well. Otherwise, I think it's going to be tough for others to see what you are seeing. So it's pretty important. Definition, defining what the problem is, also pretty important, like identifying. In identified and defined, then I think the ideation kicks in. So you basically solve that problem using your idea. I mean, so it might be a team, it might be a single person, or it might be a large group of people broken down into smaller teams, and then they might come up with different ideas. And your idea may be broken down to several steps, and each step may have to be detailed out. So that is when I think a workshop, an ideation workshop, or a design thinking workshop comes in handy, where we can use different techniques to basically get the mind map or the brain dump of different designers in the room, and then document that and send it across. And it's just not that ideation. It's just not detailing out your idea. I mean, you have to prototype and try it out, and that is where your actions are. So where you will perform those prototypes and test it out, and then it goes in a cycle. It is an iterative process, not just is a linear process. It's an iterative process. You'll go in cycles, because in one cycle or one iteration, you might find out that certain things are not working out. So you'll have to go back to your drawing board and check it out, and come back again and do the trials and the testing, and again. So until you get this perfected, so you will have to go through this in an iteration, or it's an iterative process. Yeah, can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah, so this is, I think, so ideation process itself, I think it gels well with this design thinking process. So I think most of the modern organization has a design thinking lab. So that is where these things happen. So ideation itself gets materialized, and these are the different phases they're talking about. And I think, given the reference below you for details, I think you all can go and check it out. There's some videos out there also. Check it out. So the first two is empathize and define. Again, this is problem identification and problem definition. And after that, it is an iterative process. You basically ideate. I mean, whatever ideas, small ideas you have, or simple ideas you have, it has to be detailed out. And then, so those things need to be modeled or prototype, because I think just on your idea on your brain or on paper, it's not going to be presentable, or it can be given to. Is everything okay? Yeah. So it needs to be it needs to be developed as prototype. So you can just probably show to either your investors, people who are interested in funding you, might want to see a prototype and see how feasible it is to be basically taking it to market. And then not just building the prototypes not going to be enough. So we'll have to test and see whether it's really solving the problem you basically identified in the first place. So yeah, so this is pretty much the design thinking process. There's a lot of articles and papers, a lot of material available online, so you guys can take a look. So I think this particular reference I took, I think there's some videos out there too. You all can take a look at it. Yeah, then can you move on to the next slide, please? So yeah, I think the prototyping again is an iterative process. So prototyping, you may not be prototyping the whole idea itself. Your idea may be broken down to several steps. I call it interventions. So each intervention needs to be developed, prototyped, and so again, it's an iterative process. So you basically try it out. You will check whether things are working or not. You might learn something from based on lessons learned. You will make changes again to your prototype and try it again. So you will try to do this until you get this, until you perfect this. So, and a good prototype is very, very essential for you all to basically go talk to your investors, show them what you have, and then get their confidence that this team will basically, they should basically, that will give the investors the confidence on the team if you have a pretty good prototype. So it's pretty key to get a good prototype in hand. So but on software, it's basically going to be software. You will build your prototype on your laptop, go take it to different places and show them what you have, and then once if they find it comfortable, confident, I think you would get the funding. So yeah, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so I think a design thinking lab. So most organizations, I don't know about the students in the colleges in your colleges or universities, you all have design thinking lab, but I think most big organization and leading institutions across the world or do have design thinking labs. I've seen few of them in incubators, the startup incubators and accelerator places. They will have this kind of labs where I think might be a little expensive, more on real estate and also on the tools and devices you need. But so in places like those incubators and the accelerators, those people would provide these labs. So you guys, I mean, people or the companies or the startups who are incubating on those in those places can basically share and use these labs. Most organizations would have. So this is, I think this is a place where you would basically, it's an environment to nurture an idea or ideate. So basically a drawing board to collect, I think most brainstorming sessions and brain dump sessions and whatnot will have labs like this. I think a lab like this would definitely help for getting a brain dump of different people onto the drawing board. Yeah, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so these are the different ideation methods, and that's what our principal talked about in the beginning of the call. And these are different techniques. I think most people would have known about the brainstorming sessions and the brain dump sessions and all that. Mind map is another different technique where they have the devices and tools where it'll be like a questionnaire where you will basically answer. It'll kind of get the different what's on different people's mind. You can get it on paper and then project it on screen. So like the storyboard is, I think most cinematographers and people in the movie industry use that storyboarding technique. Whatever idea they have, I think so they call it script, maybe the story or the what is kadai tirakadai, whatever. So they want to bring that on paper and put it on an album and show it to people. So storyboarding is a pretty good technique, and I think it's just not for movies. I think we can use it for software development and too. So basically screens, right? So our softwares also have screens. So you all can do storyboarding for software development too. So like this and prototyping, I think we saw. So there are several techniques which can be used for or methods for ideation, and some of them I've listed. And I think if I've given the reference to, you all can go there and check it out, what the different ideation methods are. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so I think this is the important question. Like, where do I start? How do I start? Right. So I think most young minds or student minds will be. This is the question will be on their mind. So where do I start? How do I start? Should I start now, or should I wait, or do some years of work, get some experience, and do it? Yeah, two different school of thought. So it really depends on individual, I guess. So I don't have a preference, but I think my recommendation would be get some years of work experience. That's what I did. So it took me really like, I don't know, maybe 10, 11 years of work Only then I ended up starting this organization. Our organization is a software services company. We're located in Chennai. So we basically take up software projects and execute them. And we also have a product called ERP Mind. So that's what we did. So it took me like 10, 11 years to do this. On the contrary, there's also a drawback. If you spend too much time at work, you might get cozy and you might get into a comfort zone. I'm like, oh, should I really start an organization now? Or should I really do a startup now? So you can get into that kind of mode, and slowly fear will creep in. So it's pros and cons. I think when would people straight away from college start an enterprise or an entrepreneurship is funding. Like if you have a rich background, family background, then your funding may not be an issue. You have so many ideas, or you will have ample opportunity to try out things differently. But people who do not have the luxury of those funding, then I think that might be a little tough, right? So I think there are so many stories, right? Even Steve Jobs, when he was at college, right? He was going to Harvard, I guess. Second year or third year, I think he said, "Oh no, enough of college. I'm going to do my own stuff," and he went and built that empire now. So it is a different school of thoughts. I guess I'll leave that up to you all to decide when you want to start. But that is the pros and cons. Yeah, can you move to the next screen, please? Yeah, startup stages. I think you guys might already know this. I think the IDC cell, you guys should know this. So you start up as a pretty small. It starts as an idea, right? So that is where it starts. Then it becomes a startup, and then you grow it, expand it, and then you are a mature or an established company. The risks are really high when you start, because you may not have the right funding, you may not have the right resources to start. So the risks are really high. Risk of failure, I mean. But as you grow this into a mature company, then the company would have really sized up. Size may be really big. I'll have a lot of resources. Funding may be available within or even from external funding. So the risks, you are a lot safer. And also a revenue side. Revenue is basically income. So at the initial stages, a lot of money you will have to spend from your own pocket. So I don't think anybody is going to trust you before you either have a prototype or have some product or services to show. Only then investors like VCs, right? Venture capitalists or angel funding people, only then they will see something. I mean, nobody's going to fund you if they don't see returns, right? I mean, return on investment, or how much ever money they put in, all they're going to see is like, what do I get out of this investment, right? So that is how investors are going to look into prototypes or startups. So they're putting in money and they want money. So that is what they are into. And to get that confidence, you will have to have the prototype or even the initial stage of the product or service should be at a pretty decent shape. Otherwise, getting funding is going to be tough. So initial stages, you will have to spend money. And that is where it is. So that you may be, that is where I said people with a rich background may be able to, will probably have that luxury of starting multiple times. Maybe I know this is my only startup, and I haven't gone beyond that. But I know one of my friend who started 15 times. I don't know. He kept on shifting, but now it's in a pretty good shape. He's running a pretty decent sized company now. So again. Never get disheartened when you fail. Always get up and run. So keep doing this. So, yeah, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, and again, this is a go-to-market. So how do you go to market? So this is a pretty important stuff. GTM, go-to-market. You may have a pretty smart idea or a simple idea. You may have a pretty good product or service. If you don't have a good go-to-market strategy, you may not be able to appeal the customers and get your product out there. And then however smart your product is or idea is, if you don't go to the market at the right time and to the right market,